and I'm going to run through my plays, and then we'll talk about maybe some other options, some pivots, etc. It is a hard slate to try to get different because I do think that a lot of the chalk is my favorite stuff, but we're going to try and find some ways we can maybe find some other simpler, smaller stacks that we can use. Yeah, so we'll go from here. All right. First off, let's talk about the pitching. Snell and Bassett are obviously going to grade out to be the top two. It is probably worth noting that you have an extreme hitters umpire in the Bassett game. I still like Bassett quite a bit here, and I actually had him with an edge over Snell. I could see Snell actually getting into some trouble against this San Francisco team, but I also think that he's still going to probably get the strikeouts to get him there. So it's going to be hard for him not to be one of the guys you're using, especially if your lineups are already off the chalk. But I do think he's going to be extremely popular. I actually think that Zach Gallen will be right there with these guys. And Zach Gallen does have an extreme pitchers umpire pitching in Pittsburgh. Against Pittsburgh, who has a 24% strikeout rate. It's a good spot. Those are the three obvious ones. The guys I'm going to be using, potentially even in my big buy-ins, to try to get different. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave some money on the table as of right now, and I have Gilbert and Thompson as my main lineup sort of thing right now to try to get a little different. As Sheets was talking about earlier, the Yankees played that 5-hour game yesterday, traveling into Seattle, one of the worst hitters parks. They did just beat the hell out of them the last time out there, but I am willing to take some shots with Logan Gilbert and Thompson, and I can always pivot those over if my lineups are doing really well. I'll leave enough room to pivot over to Snell if I want to. And I'll leave enough room with Thompson to pivot over to Suarez if I want to go really off the board and play Gilbert and Suarez with my chalkier stacks. So that's just what I thought I would mention. I do think that all those guys are firmly in play. It's going to be hard for Suarez to outscore these guys, but there is a chance, if you get a bad outing from Bassett and you get Snell, does his 6 walks in the first 3 innings type of thing, I think we could take some shots and try to try to win that way. Other things I've got. I want to say what's up to my guys, Eric Johnson and K9. Sheets is just popping in. Oh, sorry. Sheets, I was just going through pitching. Was wondering what your thoughts were, if there's anything much different than earlier today.
No. What's the deal with the wind in Chicago?
It's blowing in.
Okay. Like right now, I have the chalk as far as the pitching goes, and I'm trying to think of whether I want to get off of it.
Well, the one thing you can do is what I'm going to do with my big buy-in is I'm going to leave room on the table with Gilbert and Thompson, and I can always switch it up to either Snell or Thompson is going to pitch earlier, but with Gilbert, I can always switch over to Snell. I'm leaving enough money in case if my lineups are going really well. If they're struggling a little bit, I think using Gilbert instead of Snell is one thing you could do to get different.
I think it's a great idea, actually.
Yeah. So I am not, I don't know why I would be worried about the pitch count for Gilbert. He threw 90 pitches and then he threw 98 the game before that. There's no reason that Gilbert's on any sort of a pitch count that we should assume. I don't see that as even being a factor unless he's struggling. And for what it's worth, I do not like the Yankees today, Eric, to answer that question. Eric Johnson. But I understand it always could work. They are going to be low owned, so I'm not going to fault anybody for it, but I'm not stacking them. So I'm not going to answer a 5-man stack thing because the only one I'm playing is Judge. Worst stadium downshift in baseball, all that stuff. Gilbert, they did own Gilbert the last time out there. I like him to have a bounce back spot here, especially after Sheets mentioned there was the 5-hour game yesterday, and they're traveling to the worst hitters park in baseball, basically. So that's what I'm doing. I don't know why the pitch count would be an issue.
I still like, by the way, as the complementary stacks, Pittsburgh and Baltimore.
I agree with that. I have a lot of 2- and 3-man Pittsburgh stacks, and then I am definitely getting to some Baltimore, and I'm getting to some Oakland as well, where I'm not going to use Suarez. Chad Pinder batting second, super cheap option. what do we have? Jonah Bride is hitting second today. Oh no, wait, let me grab the A's lineup real quick because it was a little different than I thought. Yeah, Jonah Bride's first, Pinder second. Those two guys stand out as value options, and if you want to make it a 3-man with Laureano or go down at shortstop with Andrus, I think those are all viable options to take chances on, along with, as Sheets said, the Pirates and the Orioles. And I do like the Orioles. I think the Orioles are the more you could full stack the A's, the Orioles too. I think.
I do have just in the name of transparency, I do have some funsy stacks with the Reds, just in case. So.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, I mean, I was talking about this before. You do have an extreme hitters umpire in that game. Great hitting weather too, so I don't mind that idea. I just wish they wish that the Reds weren't terrible. Zach Gallen does have the best hitters umpire. Go ahead, Sheets.
Yeah, well, if they weren't terrible, they wouldn't. They wouldn't be low owned, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. There we go. But I do think that like the pitching. I mean, I've come more around. I'm not going to use Kikuchi, but if you wanted to go to get a different type of build and you were going to play the chalkier things, Kikuchi, Thompson, and Suarez, I think, are the best ways to do that. And I think Gilbert's the most viable off of the chalk at the top because I think it's going to be like I think I could see Snell, Gallen, and Bassett all being over 50% most likely, or somewhere in that range, especially in the higher buy-in stuff. So let's see. It's a good question from Sharks, and we talk about this a lot. Do you feel with a smaller slate that you're not full 5-man stacking as much? Yes, absolutely. I think on smaller slates you could not 5-man stack much more often, and it's better on the smaller the slate is.
I agree with that.
We got from Sam Destu says it gets really tricky after the All-Star break with the MLB and NBA. Yeah, it's very true because it's really more. It's also the trade deadline. And then you have different guys playing in different lineups. Then you get some call-ups because other teams are, trading away their teams. So it is weird, but you're gonna because of it. What it usually means is you have extreme value, and it usually means you shouldn't worry about spending on pitchers. That's what I would say.
Right.
The way I have after. All right. Let's see.
I would also like to say, I mean, this should be kind of obvious, but you get Ryan McKenna at 2K flat leading off in that Baltimore game.
Yeah, McKenna. Yeah, and I think the people will come on to him a little bit, but I do. Yeah, he's a real obvious value. I mentioned Pinder and Jonah Bride as potential other values. You've also got if you're, I don't really want to play the righties at all in Chicago, but if you wanted to play a lefty like Yadiel Hernandez at 2K, I don't mind that either. You also have the cheap options on, the good mid-tier options, I should say, on Pittsburgh. And I don't mind trying to take a shot against Gallen with Ben Gamel or Brian Reynolds, especially. So
yeah,
that's what I would try and be doing.
And I do think you could also leave money on the table today.
Absolutely, and I like the leaving money on the table. Like right now, I have Gilbert and what's his name as my starting pitchers, Thompson. But if the lineup's cruising along, I'm probably going to switch that Gilbert over to Snell because I have the extra money. If it's sort of like in between, I'll probably leave Gilbert in there and just hope I get the ceiling game out of him. We just talked about Pittsburgh, so I'm sure Eric probably just heard that. I think that we both agree that they are the complementary stack that I think makes a lot of sense. I would not be 5-man stacking them, but I do like them and for what it's worth, you do have the best pitchers umpire in that game, which makes them a little less appetizing and a little bit better for Gallen probably. But
yep.
Probably just noting. But I actually think Gallen probably, the more I look at it, I think Gallen might end up more owned than Bassett here. I don't know. It'd be close between those guys and Snell. I think they're all just going to be really popular. So I like the people getting creative with the Suarez and Gilbert and Keegan Thompson and maybe even Kikuchi. That would be.
Yeah, I would say, I think it's safe to say this now. I want to look at the right way to make this work, but I am using Thompson in my big buy. So that's
nice, as am I at the moment.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing there.
And what was the question Eric just threw in there about Irvin tonight? Like that's a good example of a guy with less strikeout upside. I think it's fine. He's gonna have more popular, less strikeout upside than Gilbert. and that's why I'm choosing Gilbert over him. But it's fine. I think that I wouldn't have a problem with playing Cole Irvin. I just don't have any need to feel the need to go there. He had the one weird outlier game with a bunch of strikeouts, and other than that, he just doesn't do that. He's just not a guy who's got a real ceiling. So I would rather play Gilbert than Irvin personally. Even if Irvin will more often get 18, 16 here, and Gilbert will more often get 27. That's the way I would
Right.
look at it. But that's obviously what I'm going to do for tournaments. Some other individual bats that I sort of come across a little bit today. Let's see what I have for. I mentioned the guys from Pittsburgh, and the other one is San Diego for me. I think that's the stack that's getting overlooked, and that has tremendous upside. So I do have some San Diego three mans. Machado, I have no problem with Soto and a lefty, but I do like Machado, Drury, Will Myers. I have some Kim on FanDuel and I actually have a full 4-man stack of San Diego on over there. So I like the idea of playing a little bit of the Padres, who are just going to be very, very low owned considering how talented their offense is. And you can stack them Will Myers is hitting 8th, but I don't mind throwing him in there at that price just because it's so cheap.
Yep.
And while these guys haven't necessarily been as great against lefties this season, historically you've got a bunch of guys in the lineup who are really good against lefties. So that's what I would say. No, I don't like the Seattle stack, by the way, at all. But go ahead, Sheets.
Yeah, I gotta save 300 somewhere.
Where? Give me the thing.
I'm trying to think of the best way to do this.
Mitch Haniger, by the way, may be my favorite one-off on the slate. I don't have Seattle as a stack, but I love Mitch Haniger. I don't mind if you want to use him as a mini stack. I think Haniger is just too good of a player for his price. He shouldn't be 3,600, and double threat guy. Obviously has some home power and stolen base upside. Even though he hasn't stolen a base this year, he's only played his 11 games or whatever it's been. I like Haniger a ton as a one-off.
So do I.
Yeah. Yeah, I think if you guys want to play Seattle, go ahead. It's they got to tie on last time, and these things rarely go the same way twice in a row. You don't usually see 2 consecutive starts where the starting pitchers who are competent get lit up, but maybe it happens again. I mean, they crushed them last time out there. So yeah, if you want to do Seattle, I have no problem with that. I would probably prefer it as like a 3 or 4 man than to a 5 man, but I think it's viable. And you've got Santana cheap. You've got Haniger, I love. Winker is cheap enough. Ty France is solid. Crawford is cheap. Suarez is reasonable. They're all reasonable, got the price. So I have no problem with Seattle. I just am not doing it myself.
Yeah. Got to check FanDuel. I'm playing FanDuel today as well.
Yeah, I am as well. So to the Cubs thing, you will not find any right-handed Cubs on any of my lineups. I can promise that one thing. I'm not going to have guys hitting into 16-mile-an-hour winds in Chicago. It's just
that's not good policy.
You're asking for miracle time there. Like it's just in general, if you're ever playing a stack in a game with 16-mile-an-hour winds anywhere, much less Chicago, where it really
let me ask you a question. So, and this is something I do. So when I ran my builds with Sabres and whatever, using my projections, I'm getting Tapia in some of my Toronto stacks, but I just don't want to play him. You know what I mean? Like if you're hitting leadoff, you know what I mean? Then I could play him to get singles and whatever, and maybe get a whatever, and then get driven in. But he's hitting freaking 7th. I just don't think I want to include him in my stack, even though you know what I mean. So I'm probably going to manually pull him out. Actually,
my argument for him is that this is a good stolen base matchup also. Lyles is a guy you can definitely run on, so he has multiple routes to get there. So I have no problem using him in stacks personally, but I certainly understand not wanting to. And yeah, that's probably what I'm gonna do. I mean, my main I'm gonna play a lot of Biggio tonight at second in my stacks.
That's cool.
Yeah, and I think using Jansen over Kirk is a way you could also get different, which I like quite a bit. Just because I think Kirk's going to be much more popular. I actually have a FanDuel lineup with Jansen and Kirk together.
Really? Well, yeah, I thought that would be something that people could do.
Yeah, I think it makes some sense. And Suarez there, boom. Pinder, top.
I'm taking out my Cubs.
Yeah, I'm just getting a few things straightened out here. And guys, firing in any more thoughts or questions? Happy to answer anything. FanDuel, the only thing that's different for me is that it's a little bit easier to get whatever you want at the top end. So I'm playing a little bit more of the high end hitters. If I had to just pick my 4 favorite Toronto guys, it would be Vlad, Chapman, Bichette, and Teoscar. But I like the idea of using Kirk and Jansen on FanDuel, where keeping that ownership low. So and then the Mets, if you can play Marte, Alonso, and Vogelbach on FanDuel, but it gets a little tricky if you want to pay up at pitching. So I think Nimmo and I think Escobar will be one of the lower owned ones. So I don't mind using him in the 8 spot for full stacks.
Yep.
The Mets are chalky. Yeah, they're too chalky. We'll see.
Yeah, right.
It depends on what they do.
I'll let you know in like 2 hours.
They're in the best matchup with incredible hitting weather, like better than it almost ever is.
But the umpire's good too.
The umpire's one of the best hitters umpires. Yeah, I like the Mets a lot. They're going to be really popular. I think Escobar, McCann are the 2 guys who Escobar, McCann. And I'm just curious how people are going to do it, whether they're going to play Alonso or Vogelbach. I think
I'm curious as well.
Yeah, I think you're going to probably end up seeing similar-ish ownership, but my guess is that Vogelbach actually might get more, where I earlier on today, because of some of the value, thought it would be Alonso. I think it's going to be Vogelbach. But I mean, look, if you're playing a lineup where you have 4 out of 5 of your stack that are in the teens ownership-wise, that I can deal with, and maybe one guy at 20 if you can get a 3-man stack of guys who are like 3%, which is where the Padres, Pirates, and to some extent, maybe not quite so much so, that Baltimore comes into play. K9's a fan of the double catcher. I love it, man. Let's do it. 2K leadoff hitter. He's 2K on both sites, by the way, not just FanDuel. No, I told you Eric. This is what I'm doing. I'm trying to. You don't have to just play the Mets with Toronto. I'm giving Toronto a little bit of a higher edge over the Mets, but I think that they're both really good stacks, and I am playing those as my main stacks and using Baltimore, Arizona, Pittsburgh, and Baltimore, San Diego, and Pittsburgh as my pivots. But most of my full stacks are going to end up being Toronto and New York. What I'm doing, though, is a lot of 4-man stuff on FanDuel and a lot of 3-3s on a lot of 3-3s on FanDuel, 4-mans on DK.
I think it's going to be almost impossible for me to win on both FanDuel and DraftKings tonight.
That's reasonable, though. Nothing wrong with that.
I mean, it's possible, but because I'm definitely playing. So I'm playing actually Snell as my main guy on FanDuel, and although I'm playing Snell in a lot of lineups on DraftKings, my big one I'm not playing Snell.
Oh, okay.
So we'll see. This is gonna be one of those things where we'll see, like if like the Mets and Toronto go off, I'm gonna look and see. All right, so where am I live? You know what I mean? Like,
what do you got left? Yeah. Mets. Can't quite get the build I really want here, but maybe I can figure something out. This Mateo has a little bit of pop, by the way. Mateo and
I like Mateo.
Yeah, there's a little bit of pop here. Maybe doing that is something I could do. Is play the little bit the bottom of the order of Baltimore as a complementary stack. I think that's reasonable.
Let me just rebuild this whole thing. Are you basically Xing out like Chicago and Washington, or just the left-handers or whatever?
I'll just play left-handers, but even that I'm not getting too much of, to be honest.
Okay. Is and then get rid of Tapia. And then we'll do this again.
And I am going to change to Gallon as my main guy over here.
See any questions in here? Wait, hold on before I do that. I gotta check this.
Soto. All right. Let's see if there's anything else here. All right. Best home run bet is always Aaron Judge, to answer that question. But my favorite one, my favorite weird one, is going to be Soto, and I am going to get some Mitch Haniger. That's one. We just went through all the top two. The top two stacks are pretty clearly the Mets and Jays. What we're doing to get different, again, or what I'm doing to get different, is San Diego, Baltimore, and Pittsburgh. And Sheets seems to be higher on Pittsburgh too.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, the Padres are going to be very low owned. I think that's a really reasonable stack. I really do.
What's his name coming back? Tatis.
Comes back. When does he come back? I don't know. I feel like I should know that one, but I don't. All right. Any more questions or thoughts, guys? Throw them out there. Probably gonna jump in just a minute.
Yeah, I'm gonna probably get something to eat.
Sounds good.
And then we'll see what happens tonight. Are you still on kind of limited Wednesday availability, or not as much?
No. I should be around Wednesday.
Okay.
Yeah, that should be good.
I was going to say if you were out, we could do an early golf, but if you're around Wednesday, we can wait till Wednesday.
Well, Wednesday should be good for me, I think, this week.
Okay.
Played him. I'm trying to figure this out. I can't quite get the exact build I want. I hate when that happens. I'm 100 off. Like we joked about. It feels like they're doing it to us.
Like they do it on purpose. They definitely didn't do it on purpose in basketball, I thought.
I know they have to in basketball because it's too easy to. It's too often that it happens. For sure.
NFL is coming.
Yep. Looking forward to it. All right.
Teams. Mets, Arizona, Toronto. These are my FanDuel guys.
All right, that's what I'm doing. I'm doing a 4-3-1 with Baltimore and Toronto on DK.
I like that.
Yeah. And it's Cedric Mullins is hitting 8th. That can't be. Is that a misprint?
Oh no.
What are they doing? I understand lefty righty splits, but Jesus, guys, maybe I will change my mind.
Got the O'Neill Cruz hitting 7th for Pittsburgh.
Yeah, but I mean, Cedric Mullins is like
he's an actual good.
He's like their only like. Right. I mean, I know he's not having his best year, but like he's still in 260. I don't know. That's a little weird to see. Wow. Huh. That does sort of throw things a little monkey wrench into them for me. Okay.
All right, I will tell you guys in a second what I'm doing. I can do that. My FanDuel big one, so you can root for me. I can at least give you an idea Really not a lot of nothing earth shattering. If you want to know the truth, let me. Be nice if I could find it real easily on FanDuel when I scroll through my lineups. That would be really convenient. If I could just list these by in some reasonable fashion. I mean, it says list by buy-in, but it doesn't work for me for some reason. $5. So annoying. There it is. So yeah, better or worse, it's gonna be a big old game stack for me on FanDuel at Citi Field. That's gonna be the deal. You guys can figure out what that means.
I like that. Hey, you could get that Cincinnati pretty cheap. I like. It's kind of interesting.
And I got one kind of little one random one off. So I have a 4-3-1 over there. But we shall see. All right. Good luck, everybody.
Good luck to everybody.